celebrating 16 years of Young Turks.
You're watching the CNBC TV 18 exclusive. We're in conversation with Nandan Nilekani and Sanjeev Agarwal, founding partners at Fundamentum Partnership, and Michael Sabia, the president and CEO of CDPQ. CDPQ investing $20 million in Fundamentum. Michael Sabia, let me ask you, outside of the investment that you've done in Fundamentum, about the India story. You're excited about the opportunity in the renewables space. You're looking at the stressed assets opportunity in India as well. Can you give me a sense of what is the current level of investment in India and where we could see that headed?
Sure. Up to today, we've invested about $4.5 billion US in India. That's, in our minds, that's a relatively small amount for an economy of the size and the growth potential of India. So we're clearly working on increasing that number step by step. What we're announcing today is one small step in that direction, and hopefully it'll become an even bigger step going forward. In terms of areas that are of interest to us, as you mentioned, we've done a lot and will continue to do more in financial services. We're very interested in logistics, where we think there are big opportunities in India, given both the emergence of e-commerce and, second, all the important changes that will flow from the GST. We're very interested. We've done some, and we'd like to do more, much more investing in renewables, renewable energy. India's energy requirements are obvious to everyone, and the fact that they will have to be increasingly climate conscious seems to us to be a strong and underlying trend that we would like to be part of. In addition to that, we're also very interested in the consumer product space. That's an area where we think there could be some very interesting opportunities coming forward. Similarly, in healthcare, that's another area of considerable interest to us. So what we're trying to do is to do more of some of the things that we've already done with some of the really good partners that we have the pleasure of working with here, to go deeper in those relationships, and also to spread out a little bit with respect to, say, consumer and healthcare, to broaden the base of the investment activities that we have. But we would like to see over the coming years a significant step up in the overall level of investment here.
So what could it be? In the next 5 years, $4.5 billion could be what, Michael Sabia?
Well, $4.5 billion will be determined by the quality of the opportunities and the quality of the partners who we find here and can continue to work with here. But I think that's the $4.5 billion is a relatively small percentage of our total asset base. So I think you could expect to see some pretty substantial increases in that number over the next 5 to 7 years. But I'm not going to give you a target, because we're pretty disciplined about it's about the quality of the partner and it's about the quality of the transaction, and the capital follows both of those two things.
Now, if I could ask you about some specific investments that you've already done. For instance, you've got about a little over a 1% stake in Kotak Mahindra Bank, and there is a requirement, a regulatory requirement there for Uday Kotak to bring down his stake by December 2018. Would that be an opportunity where you would look at upping your stake in Kotak Mahindra Bank, or, for instance, in the asset reconstruction business of Edelweiss, where, again, you've picked up a stake? So would those be areas where you would look to significantly up your presence and stakes?
The short answer to your question is yes to both of those. In the case of the Kotak Bank, our thinking is not driven by whether or not, or what the regulatory issues are that Uday Kotak is working on as we speak. Our interest in that is we think that is a great bank, and it has a great future. And similarly, Edelweiss, we have a very, very good partnership with Rashesh Shah. We think that business, Edelweiss, is very interestingly positioned across, a set of very specific financial services that are very important as India works through this important asset reconstruction challenge that it is facing. So would we be open and interested in increasing our presence in both of those businesses? Absolutely.
On the renewable side, I think it was, in 2016 that you had spoken of a commitment of 150 million. How much have you invested already in the renewable space so far, and where do you see that headed?
Well, yeah, our principal investment in renewables is in a company, and interestingly, Sanjeev is also an investor, and we're partners in that business as well. A solar power company that I'm sure you know of called Azure. That's our principal area of investment in renewables. But the renewable space is, so that is a pillar of what we're doing, and it's a pillar of what we will continue to do. That's a very important part of the portfolio for us here. That being said, the renewable space in India is so large with respect to both solar and wind in particular, and we would like to significantly increase, very significantly increase our exposure to both of those alternative sources of energy over the next 3 to 5 years. There's a very significant growth opportunity there, and as you know, the cost functions of those technologies have changed so much.
Yes.
That they've become so competitive against traditional power generation that, as I say, it just opens up big opportunities. We're, I think in North America, I think we're the biggest investor in renewable energy among pension funds. So it's an area that we know a lot about, that we're very confident in the expertise of our people, and therefore, we want to apply that expertise here and to build pretty substantial businesses in the renewable space in India.
Speaking of growth opportunities in India, Michael, what about real estate? Because your realty arm has inked a partnership with Piramal. What's the outlook as far as the Indian real estate sector is concerned, and the prospects of further investments within this sector?
Yeah, we certainly have an interest, and our real estate subsidiary has done an interesting partnership with Piramal. Ajay Piramal is a great partner of ours, and we're looking to extend and deepen that relationship with him, not just in real estate, but potentially in other areas as well. So we'll continue to look for very targeted opportunities in real estate, and probably with an emphasis on different forms of real estate financing, with probably some emphasis on the housing sector.
Okay. Nandan, if I may ask a quick question on the current court proceedings underway in the Aadhaar matter, and I won't get into specifics, but broadly, the sum and substance of what has been observed by the Supreme Court as of now is the fact that without a data security law, users' data is at risk. Do you believe that till we actually put a law in place, the government should hold back on mandatorily linking Aadhaar to services?
Well, I think the case is right now sub judice in the Supreme Court, so I think I will not comment on that. At the same time, I do believe that the government has moved quickly to set up the Justice Sri Krishna committee. They have published a draft of their thoughts. They've got plenty of feedback, and I believe they are now in the process of finalizing a law which they will give to the government. So I think that process is well underway.
That white paper has been out for some time now, Nandan, but do you believe that India should follow the EU model, for instance? Do you believe that that should be the way forward when it comes to putting a data protection law in place?
Well, I think the leadership, the team under Justice Sri Krishna is it's an excellent set of people working on the law. And I believe that they have got submissions and ideas from around the world. Certainly the GDPR will be one of the things they will look at. But I think given where India is, and given the fact that data empowerment is such an important aspect of what we need, I'm confident that they will come out with an excellent law which is right for the 21st century.
Okay, Sanjeev, I'll end then by asking you about what 2018 looks like for the startup ecosystem. You spoke about the cleansing that has taken place. We're also seeing a fair degree of consolidation and perhaps some more consolidation in the offing, which looks like it's going to be largely driven by investors. What's the outlook for 2018? What do you believe could be the high points?
I think 2017-18, Shereen, is being a lot about the fundamentals and the fact that we have now global validation from very large players like Alibaba, Tencent, Naspers, SoftBanks. So it suggests that the digital economy in the making is looking very good to a lot of overseas players. And I think we are getting into the next phase of entrepreneurship, where the spray and pray phase is behind us. And now serious company building is happening. I think we've got a very good seed and startup ecosystem. And then we've got a very good late-stage ecosystem with the Tencents and Alibabas of the world. And then Fundamentum and CDPQ, we are trying to play our part in filling up the ecosystem where there is a missing middle, if I were to use that phrase.
Okay. Michael Sabia, the final say to you. I think when you visited India in 2016, you said that India was the bright spot in a fairly cloudy global environment. What we've seen happen in the past year or so is that global growth has picked up and momentum, at least when it comes to global growth, seems to be back at this point in time. So where does India stand in the pecking order in terms of your allocation?
Oh, nothing's changed. Same place. India is a bright spot, and you're right. World growth is better synchronized than it was a year or two ago, and that's probably that's a good thing. But notwithstanding that, I mean, we're a very long-term investor. What we're looking for are what are the big underlying structural trends that are going to drive growth in a variety of different countries around the world. And when we look at India, we just see so many factors here that cause us to conclude that this is going to be a very, very interesting place to do business, where there are some great growth prospects, where there are great partners who we can work with. There's a lot of opportunity in this country.
Well, Michael Sabia, Nandan Nilekani and Sanjeev Agarwal, congratulations once again on getting this deal done. We wish you the very best of luck, and thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC TV 18 with your thoughts on the way forward. Appreciate your time. With that, it is time for us to wrap up the CNBC TV 18 exclusive from all of us here. Goodbye. Many thanks for watching.
Celebrating 16 years of Young Turks.